What if the reason you can't seem to solve your biggest, most complex problems is, well, simply because your bedroom is messy? Or, because you spend too much time gossiping in the break room? Usually, when we want to learn something new or achieve a higher state of mind, we treat it like hunting. We gear up, we track the knowledge down, we try to force an epiphany to happen.
Right. We basically uh, chase the butterfly with a net.
hmm
And more often than not, we just end up crushing the wings or completely exhausting ourselves in the process. It becomes this very active, almost aggressive pursuit of wisdom.
Exactly. But today's source material claims that sweeping your floor, watching your words, and reaching spiritual enlightenment are actually all driven by the exact same mechanism. We are stepping into a philosophical framework where the ultimate shortcut to getting what you want is honestly just standing completely still. Welcome to the deep dive. We have a genuinely fascinating piece of source material today.
Yeah, we really do. It's an essay by So Feng, translated and edited by Kinyu.
Right, and the title is just a beautifully poetic distillation of this entire concept. It's called Fragrances Will Attract Butterflies to Flowers and Pure Hearts Will Be Frequented by Celestial Beings.
It is a striking title, for sure, but what lies beneath that poetry is actually a highly analytical, incredibly structured breakdown of human psychology and spiritual mechanics.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Our mission for this deep dive is to explore the profound, pretty uncompromising principle of like attracts like. We're going to look at how this plays out in our physical environments and, crucially, in our internal mental states.
And the ultimate goal here is to discover how inner tranquility might be the ultimate shortcut to accessing higher wisdom.
Right. And for you listening right now, we aren't just floating in the philosophical clouds today. We are framing this as a highly practical lens for evaluating your own environment, your daily habits, and your mental clutter, so you can achieve that state where ideas just flow naturally.
Which is something universally desired, right? Whether you are trying to write a novel, lead a company through a crisis, or just, I don't know, find a shred of peace at the end of a long day, the mechanics of how we attract our reality are deeply relevant.
Absolutely. So the text opens with a biological and social baseline. Basically, our environment shapes us, and we inevitably shape our environment. The author gives this rapid-fire list of examples to prove that, invariably attracts like.
Right. It points out that foreign dignitaries opt for five-star hotels. I mean, they simply don't stay at roadside inns. And recluses and hermits choose picturesque mountains for their cultivation.
Yeah, they actively avoid desolate, barren lands.
Exactly. It roots this principle in nature first, like flies are drawn to filthy places. Blooming flowers welcome bees and butterflies. It's establishing this baseline rule of the universe before applying it to human behavior. A phoenix avoids barren lands, and peonies do not grow in the Gobi Desert. The environment absolutely must match the entity.
But it's one thing to say bees like flowers. It gets much more confronting when the text applies that same biological law of attraction to human morality and social dynamics.
Oh, for sure.
The text uses somewhat ancient framing, talking about how gamblers revel in murky environments, or how harlots attract promiscuous men, or debauchees tempt women seeking affairs, and how tyrants surround themselves with sycophants. But if we pull that into modern behavioral psychology, we're really talking about toxic codependency.
That is a perfect translation of the text's intent. Broken people attract people who feed on that brokenness.
Right.
The lens through which you view the world dictates exactly what you draw toward you. The essay notes that lovers see beauty everywhere, while evildoers perceive others primarily as troublemakers. You don't just happen to find yourself in a room full of sycophants or scammers.
No, your internal frequency tuned the dial to that exact station. And the essay even modernizes this concept itself, predicting the digital age in a way that feels incredibly prescient. It says that people who browse the internet daily favor websites that suit their temperament and personality.
Yeah, it specifically notes that scammers and thieves find it very easy to communicate with each other online.
Reading that, it struck me that this text is perfectly describing modern social media algorithms long before we thought of them in those terms, right?
Yes. And what's brilliant about the algorithm analogy is that it highlights the feedback loop. An algorithm doesn't just passively show you things. It learns your deepest anxieties, your hidden biases, and your aspirations, and then it builds a digital room around you made entirely of those things.
Wow, yeah.
Just like a digital feed, your spiritual feed becomes an echo chamber of your own mental state.
Which brings up a bit of a chicken and egg scenario. When we look at this loop, the internet user and the algorithm, or the flower and the bee, are we the flower attracting the bee, or were we the bee seeking out the flower? Does the text suggest we actively curate our reality, or does our reality quietly curate us?
Well, it presents it as a completely symbiotic loop. You really cannot separate the two. Your internal state naturally seeks an external environment that matches it. Simultaneously, your external environment reinforces your internal state.
Okay, so they feed off each other.
Exactly. A scammer seeks out a chaotic corner of the internet, and spending time in that chaotic corner breeds more scamming behavior. Conversely, a sage seeks out an abode with serene, fresh air, and that physical serenity deepens their internal wisdom. The mirror reflects both ways.
So if our external world and our social circles are this perfect, inescapable mirror of our internal state, we have to look closely at what is doing the projecting. We
Right.
need to look inside our own minds, which brings us to the central tension of this essay, the brutal, uncompromising battle between internal order and internal chaos.
The text draws an incredibly sharp distinction here. It does not treat chaos and order as two equal sides of a coin. It views chaos as fundamentally destructive and order as inherently life-giving.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The text points out these universal human reactions, like a tangled mess is immediately distressing to anyone who encounters it. Noise is irritating. But orderly lines soothe us.
Yeah, a chaotic painting disrupts our thoughts, while harmonious music brings us joy. And from there, it makes this massive assertion. A higher quality life, and it capitalizes the word life, strongly favors order.
While a lower quality life leans heavily toward chaos.
Right. And it applies this to macro society as well. It states that saints and sages would never guide people toward rebellion, rioting, plunder, or bloodshed. Order is the prerequisite for growth.
And just to be clear for you listening, we are simply reporting on the philosophical framework of this text. We aren't taking any modern political sides here. But the text explicitly states that those with distorted mindsets eagerly anticipate chaos. They hope for frequent government overthrows so they can, quote, fish in troubled waters and seize power.
It contrasts that destructive opportunism with the mindset of the virtuous individuals in what it calls the Lifechanyuan community. These are people who deeply appreciate order. The essay uses this stunning poetic image to describe how they move through the world. It says, "The wind blows, the mountains stand still, leaves fall silently."
I cannot get that quote out of my head. The wind blows, the mountain stands still. And what's crucial is that the text clarifies that remaining still in a storm isn't just about having good moral character. It frames this entirely as a question of life quality, meaning living in a state of chaos literally degrades your life force.
Yes, and it uses an analogy about weather to explain why. It asks you to imagine if the weather was completely unpredictable. Say, scorching sun today, biting cold tomorrow, a serene morning followed by a massive deluge in the afternoon.
That sounds exhausting.
Right. If the environment fluctuated with that level of chaos, life on Earth would be impossible. Nothing could take root, nothing could grow.
And then it beautifully maps that environmental chaos onto human emotions. It says, imagine a person whose desires fluctuate unpredictably. They want to start a business today, but jump into politics tomorrow. They want to marry Xiao Wang in the morning, but change their mind and want to marry Dili in the afternoon.
Which is just wild.
It is. The text asks, can a person living with that much emotional whiplash possibly live a long, healthy life? The answer is no, because that level of internal volatility fries your nervous system.
What's fascinating here is how strictly the text defines chaos. Because in modern culture, we often romanticize
I'm
that.
so glad you brought that up, because I have to push back on the text's premise here. Is all chaos inherently bad? Because if you look at modern business or technology or art, people argue that a little bit of chaos is absolutely necessary.
Sure.
We praise disruption. We say you have to break things to create something new. Look at Einstein, famously. He had a terribly messy desk. People say that visual chaos is a sign of genius. Doesn't total rigid order just lead to stagnation?
It's a very fair critique, but we have to look at the mechanism this text's describing. The essay doesn't view chaos as the spark of innovation. It strictly equates chaos with destruction, plunder, and severe emotional whiplash.
Okay, I see.
There's a profound difference between a desk cluttered with research papers, which is just visual evidence of a working mind, and a spirit cluttered with deceit, greed, and unpredictable desires. The essay argues that true creativity, the ability to actually synthesize an idea or write something of lasting value, requires deep, calm focus.
Ah, that makes a lot of sense.
It explicitly says, when the mind is calm, ideas flow naturally. Disruption for the sake of disruption doesn't lead to creation. It just leaves a tangled mess.
Hmm.
It's the orderly, serene mind that actually possesses the bandwidth to create.
That distinction between visual clutter and spiritual destruction is really helpful. It's redefining what our brains actually need to be productive. So if internal chaos actively ravages our life quality, what exactly does a perfectly ordered, pure mind look like?
Right, and more importantly, what are the strict rules for achieving it?
Because the essay doesn't leave this up to interpretation, it gives us a rigorous checklist.
It does. It outlines the specific process of cultivating what it refers to as a pure heart.
First, gives us the visualization of what we are aiming for, and the imagery is just stunning. It says a pure heart is like a babbling brook, a field of blooming flowers, a serene garden. It's like overlapping mountain ranges, a tranquil lake, drifting clouds, and the vast starry night sky.
It's describing an internal landscape that is completely harmonious, completely free of friction. But to get your mind to resemble a vast starry night sky, you have to clear out a massive amount of internal pollution.
And I mean a massive amount. The text provides this exhaustive, uncompromising checklist of impurities that must be avoided. Reading through this list, it felt exactly like running a deep malware scan on a computer.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
It's digging into every single hidden folder in your brain to find corrupted files that are greening your battery.
Let's look at what that malware scan actually flags as impure. It starts with the heavy hitters. The obvious moral failures, having evil thoughts, having a deluded and fantasizing mind, endless greed, deceitful behavior, and engaging in conflict or robbery.
Right, those are the major viruses. We all agree those are bad. But then the scan goes deeper, and it catches all these everyday bugs that most of us run in the background without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
It says that seeking undue advantage taints the heart. Having ambiguous thoughts obscures the heart. And my personal favorite, speaking nonsense stains the heart.
That one is incredibly convicting.
It really is. Think about how much of our day is just speaking nonsense. Gossip, empty chatter in the break room, doom scrolling, and complaining out loud. In the framework of this essay, those aren't just harmless ways to pass the time.
No, they are background applications constantly running, eating up the processing power you need to reach that higher state of mind. And it doesn't stop at mental or verbal states. It extends into deep moral and physical impurities. It says insulting gods and Buddhas clouds the heart, disrespecting parents darkens the heart, lacking compassion stains the heart, and blasphemy against the greatest creator stains the heart.
And this brings me to the detail that I found most surprising. It includes your physical environment in this exact same list of spiritual impurities. It says having an impure body defiles the heart, and maintaining a dirty, disorderly living space pollutes the heart.
This raises an important question, doesn't it? Why is a messy bedroom sitting on the exact same checklist as robbery, deceit, or blasphemy?
Yes. How are the physical act of doing your laundry and the spiritual act of attaining enlightenment so intertwined here?
It goes right back to the very first sentence of the essay. Like attracts like. In this philosophy, there is zero separation between the physical and the spiritual. A dirty, disorderly living space isn't just a chore you haven't gotten around to.
It's deeper than that.
Exactly. It is a physical manifestation of internal chaos. If your room is a tangled mess, your mind is a tangled mess. Think about the physiological response to a messy room.
It creates visual noise, which raises your cortisol levels, which disrupts your focus.
Right. You simply cannot maintain a mind as serene as a starry night sky if you are physically sitting in filth. The physical cleanliness of your space is inextricably linked to your spiritual clarity. You have to order your physical world to have any hope of ordering your internal world.
It is an incredibly demanding philosophy. I mean, it means you can't just go to a yoga retreat, meditate for an hour, and then come home, leave your house a total wreck, and gossip with your friends. The purity has to be total and all-encompassing. The malware scan has to come back completely clean.
So let's play this out.
Let's say you do it. You clear the malware, you clean your room, you stop speaking nonsense, you honor your parents, you drop the ambiguous thoughts, and your heart finally becomes as clear and orderly as that serene garden. What is the ultimate reward for all of this incredibly strict cultivation?
Well, the ultimate reward is the final, profound culmination of the text message. It reveals that a pure heart is the only possible way to attract celestial beings and truly understand the highest wisdom of the universe.
The text states that a completely purified state of mind is literally the realm of celestial beings. Achieving this state naturally attracts divine blessings, spiritual guidance, and visits from these higher entities.
This is where the second half of the essay's title comes into full focus, right?
Yeah.
And pure hearts will be frequented by celestial beings.
Yes.
And it anchors this concept by pointing to the great historical spiritual figures. The essay claims that the profound words of Jesus, Buddha Shakyamuni, and Laozi did not come from a place of straining or academic study. They emanated from this exact pure state of mind.
And this is the part that completely rewired how I think about learning. It says that if you attain this level of internal purity, understanding the teachings of Jesus, Buddha, and Laozi becomes, quote, as effortless as turning one's hand.
That is powerful.
So, what does this all mean? For you, listening right now, especially if you were someone who loves devouring deep dives, reading nonfiction, and constantly trying to gather more knowledge, this text is offering a pretty radical challenge. It's suggesting that simply reading more books or studying harder is fundamentally insufficient to grasp profound wisdom.
Right. If your mind isn't pure, if your internal landscape is still cluttered with greed or ambiguous thoughts, or even just a messy living room, the wisdom literally has nowhere to land. It won't stick.
Because the frequencies don't match.
Exactly. You won't be able to decode it because your internal frequency doesn't match the frequency of the wisdom. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it perfectly synthesizes the entire journey of the essay. We started by observing the natural world, the blooming flower, naturally welcoming the bee without having to chase it. We end with the human mind. The pure, orderly mind effortlessly attracting profound wisdom. You don't have to strain or struggle or force yourself to understand the complexities of the universe. You just have to clear the clutter, stop running background apps of nonsense, create order in your physical space, and become the serene garden.
When you do the work to become the flower, the wisdom arrives naturally, drawn to you by the inescapable law of attraction. It's a beautiful and frankly deeply challenging framework to live by.
It really is.
To quickly recap our journey through the source material today, we explored Feng's essay and saw how our external environments and our internal states are perfect, unavoidable mirrors of one another. We learned why we must fiercely protect our life quality by choosing order over the destructive, exhausting nature of emotional and physical chaos.
We went through the rigorous, uncompromising checklist required to cultivate a truly pure heart, from clearing out deceitful thoughts down to the physical act of cleaning our living spaces.
And finally, we saw the ultimate promise that by creating that internal serenity, profound wisdom stops being something we have to hunt and becomes as effortless as turning your hand.
It serves as a powerful reminder that our primary job in life isn't always to seek out the answers. Often our primary job is simply to make ourselves a suitable, quiet home for the answers to reside in.
Absolutely. But before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a final, lingering thought to ponder. Something that builds on everything we've discussed, but flips the tension in a different direction.
Oh, interesting. What is it?
Well, the text states that like attracts like, and a pure heart naturally attracts celestial wisdom and serene environments. But what happens if a truly pure-hearted person, someone who has done the work and cultivated that internal serene garden, is unexpectedly forced into a perpetually chaotic environment?
An environment they can't simply leave, or a situation they can't easily clean up.
Exactly. Think of a toxic workplace or a sudden family crisis. Can the internal serene garden be so strong that it eventually transforms the external Gobi desert around them? Can a pure heart actually cure a chaotic room?
Or is the law of attraction so absolute that the harshness of the desert will inevitably dry up the babbling brook inside them?
Right. How strong is that internal order when the external world refuses to align? We invite you to explore that tension in your own life this week. Look at the mirrors around you, and the next time you find yourself aggressively chasing down a goal, completely exhausting yourself in the process, remember the butterfly. Maybe it's time to drop the net, stop running, go clean your room, and focus on becoming the flower. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.